The coronavirus worsens. Two states are in a state of emergency: California, Washington State. It's spreading. It could be out of control very, very quickly. I don't think it's helpful to play it down. You always have to assume the worst. And Freedom Watch, and yours truly, is assuming the worst. We have filed Freedom of Information Act requests and will take other actions to find out the cause of the coronavirus, because only if you know the cause can you cure it in many ways. And as I've said, there are reports that a Chinese military biological weapons lab in Wuhan, China, released this very dangerous virus. And of course, our CIA should have known about it. Our Director of National Intelligence, our FBI, one wonders what they're doing over there, or if they are doing something, whether it's covered up. So we want to find that out. And I call on everyone who's out there who may be affected or knows of someone who has been exposed to contact me at that's Larry Elliott Klayman, Klayman at gmail.com. We will represent you. We will bring a case against the government of China. They need to pay for the damage which has been caused. If it is a biological weapon, they are not immune from suit. They have a lot of assets in this country, the Chinese, and we can attach those assets to pay the damage. And in fact, if you really want to do a number on China, and I like Chinese people, by the way, don't get me wrong, but the government of China is evil. If you want to do a number and bring them to their knees, you hit them financially with this, because the amount of damage worldwide is astronomical. And if, in fact, as I believe it is, this was a biological weapon lab that released this information that's outlawed under the Geneva Convention and other treaties, it's in effect a terrorist weapon, and there is no immunity from suit. So that's my message. Contact me, Larry Klayman, L.E. Klayman, at gmail.com. If you want to be part of a lawsuit, we will bring that lawsuit on your behalf and on behalf of others who have been damaged here, or who have been, in fact, emotionally scarred by this whole thing. Now, let's talk about another thing, and we're going to have this on our radio show this week, Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman, which generally airs Sunday on about 50 stations throughout the United States, but you can also pick it up on RadioAmerica.com's podcasts, and also LarryKlayman.com, FreedomWatchUSA.org, iTunes, Spotify, Patreon, Facebook, etc. There's a group called Dream Defenders, which is located out of Tallahassee, Florida. They actually supported the gubernatorial candidate, Andrew Gillum, someone who got into a lot of ethics issues during that campaign, someone who sided, frankly, through the Dream Defenders with people who have ties to Palestinian terrorism. Unbelievable, but it's true. And also, they are, of course, ardent haters of George Zimmerman. To this day, they have campaigns claiming that he's a murderer, all kinds of things. They're going after me. They're going after the person who wrote the book, Joel Gilbert, Trayvon Hoax, who uncovered that there was a fraudulent witness presented in the trial of George Zimmerman. But believe it or not, Dream Defenders has endorsed Bernie Sanders. They're haters of the police. They don't want any law and order. They're anarchists. They are black separatists. In other words, they believe that black people are superior to everybody else and they should have their own separate little country inside of the United States. And it's dangerous. This group is extremely dangerous. So Bernie Sanders accepts the endorsement proudly. It tells you who these people are. They're more than socialists. I mean, they are borderline communists. They're beyond communism. They're into complete anarchy. Okay, they're like Antifa. And this is something that we're going to discuss on the radio show with Joel Gilbert and my brave African-American policeman client, Demetric Penny, this week. Demetric, of course, brought cases against Louis Farrakhan, Black Lives Matter, New Black Panthers Party, Al Sharpton, and others in Dallas for that massacre that occurred a few years ago of the police, of his brothers. He was assaulted in that process. And those cases are still in the courts, and they're working their way through. But I want you to pay attention to this, because these are the people that support Bernie Sanders. You've got Ilham Omar, a vehement anti-Semite, someone who also supports Palestinian terrorism. You've got Rashida Tlaib, same thing. We have a lawsuit for Laura Loomer up in Minnesota. We have to refile it. The state court judge got a little bit of cold feet, but it's going to be refiled shortly against Tlaib for assaulting Laura Loomer. We're on every front here. And these are the groups that need to be opposed, because these are the groups that want to divide white people from black people and people of other races, colors, and creeds. They want to create division in this country. They want to create anarchy. They want this country to come unglued so they can seize control. And all of these radical groups, they'll come together in the end, claiming that they're going to be in control of the United States if they succeed. And if they don't succeed at the ballot box, they'll succeed in the streets. That's what they're trying to do. And should they assume control of this country, they'll start fighting with each other because they all hate each other. I mean, there is no affinity between feminists and people who actually believe in Islam, for instance, because women are grossly inferior in Islam and the Muslim world. And these are the kinds of things which Europe's experiencing now with rapes and assaults and everything else with the influx of the refugees from Syria. Now, not all of them are bad people. There's some good people. There are some Muslims who actually believe in the rule of law and don't go along with this stuff. But there are a lot that don't. And this is something which is very, very serious. It's trying to tear the society apart. So I want you to pay attention to our radio show. Listen, research the Dream Defenders, because this is a group that Bernie Sanders endorses. It's unbelievable. And then I want to say something which I think you'll find somewhat controversial. Just in the last day or so, Minority Leader Chuck Schumer has criticized two Supreme Court justices over their abortion rights. Not just criticized, he attacked them. He, in effect, what he said was interpreted to be threatening them. And the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, in one of the few times that he comes out of his cave, has actually gone after Schumer with regard to these attacks. Now, I don't like Schumer. I think he's one of the most disgusting people ever in the history of the U.S. Senate. Completely dishonest, just reeks with hatred. He's an embarrassment to me as a Jewish Christian. He's a Jewish person. When I see Jewish people out there like this, frankly, I want to duck, because this does not represent, the Jewish left does not represent the majority of Jews. And I want people to understand that, so anti-Semitism does not increase. We need to lower it in this country. But ironically, it is time for politicians and others, in addition to President Trump, he's been doing it, to be critical of federal judges and Supreme Court justices. They are very politicized. Many of them are political hacks. I go up against them every single day. Just recently, a judge of the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, in a case I brought for Dr. Jerome Corsi with regard to Roger Stone, who defamed Dr. Corsi, called him an alcoholic and all kinds of other things, which he's not. Stone was defensive. He wanted to put Dr. Corsi on his heels. He thought Corsi would testify against him in grand jury proceedings and later at Stone's criminal prosecution. Jerry said he would only testify truthfully if ever subpoenaed. He never actually was called. But that's typically Roger Stone. You got to attack somebody. You got to try to destroy him. His paranoia is what led to a lot of problems that Stone now faces, indicted and convicted on 7 felony counts of perjury, obstruction of justice, and witness tampering. But this judge, Judge Kelly, had this case in front of him for almost a year. He did nothing. This is a Trump appointee. It's what I've been telling you. And I've experienced him before in terms of his dishonest opinions and other things, basically not wanting to be involved in anything that's controversial. Anyway, he dismisses the case without prejudice, means it can be refiled. He admits that venue can lie in the District of Columbia. That's where I brought the case, but that we should go file it in Florida. Well, that's fine. We'll file it in Florida. It's going to cost, $500 in filing fees, and it delayed everything a year. And he admits that there are cases that say that we could bring the case in the District of Columbia, but he didn't want it in his courtroom. So what did he do? He messed around for a year. And that's the best way to say it. I could use the D word and it'd be more appropriate. And then dismisses it and just washes his hands of it. So it's about time that people start criticizing judges. It's about time that they be held accountable. And as I've said, particularly federal judges, we're going to have a constitutional convention, the Third Continental Congress, this year in the fall where we're going to bring in experts. We need a new way of selecting judges, not on political patronage. We need to remove their immunity. We need to have a mechanism for getting rid of them because they're there for life, take away their life tenure. And whether it's an Obama judge or a Clinton judge or a Trump judge, most of them are highly politicized. Let me give you another example. Judicial Watch recently gets the deposition of Hillary Clinton. Judge Royce Lamberth, I talked about this yesterday. What has he been doing for all these years? If he was serious about allowing Hillary Clinton to be deposed, he should have done it sooner. Now no one cares anymore. And in fact, the statute of limitations is run, some people say, with regard to what happened at Benghazi. I have 2 clients whose sons were killed at Benghazi. Why did he mess around for a year and then release the decision at the height of Super Tuesday so no one would see it? You know, I love the judge, but he plays politics too. So there's no limits here to what these federal judges do with regard to politics. It's time that they be held accountable. And so although Schumer, went too far, his criticism and other people's criticism, left or right, of federal judges is appropriate because by and large, they're a bunch of political hacks. And without judges that are independent, without judges that are intellectually honest, and some of them are not honest otherwise, I'm sure that there's bribery that takes place more than we know in the judicial system. Without that, then we have no protectors against the tyranny of the other 2 branches and the tyranny of ourselves. Our judges are our most important public servants. We do not have the best and brightest on the bench. By and large, in the federal bench, we have a bunch of political hacks when it comes to a case that has a political element, and that is extremely dangerous. That's my message for today. Share this podcast. You can find it at radioamerica.com. You can find it at freedomwatchusa.org. You can find it on iTunes, on Spotify, on Patreon, on Facebook, on Roku, on Amazon Fire, and other places. It's time that we educate the American people. It's time that they know the facts of life because they don't get it on Fox News. That's couched. You don't get it, obviously, on MSNBC and CNN, which have turned communist. CNN, the communist news network. But you will get it here. So I thank you for listening to me each day. God bless you. God bless your family. God bless America. And God save America. And I'll be back with another podcast tomorrow.